Greetings, students. Today we're going to talk about goals, specifically setting and achieving goals. So, of course, for all of us, we have different kinds of goals. And some of the goals that we have are personal, other goals that we have are social. Some goals we have are academic, yet others we have are professional. In terms of timing, some goals, of course, we set today, we're going to achieve today. But some goals that we set today, we might not achieve until tomorrow or next week, next month, next year, or even 10, 20, 30 years from now. But the most important thing to remember about goals is that we not only have to set them, but we have to take concrete steps and actions to actually achieve them and follow through with them. Okay, so first things first, as always, we need a definition. We need to define what goals are. So goals, as you can see on the screen, are an end towards which effort is directed. So you can think of goals as an aim, it's an intention, they're what we strive for. But goals are actually related to another term that you see there, values. So we have to ask, what are values? And we've talked about values in this class already. They are things that we believe in. They are things or concepts that we hold, near and dear to our hearts and our minds. And if we really get concrete about it, values are what we consider the accepted principles or the standards by which we live our lives, by which an individual or a group of people live his or her life, right? So these two concepts are related, but how exactly are related? So let's look at a few examples to see how values and goals are related. So I have three examples on the screen. And the first example is, say you value health and fitness, and you also value, helping other people. So the goal that you may then have would be to become maybe a physical therapist, where you're actually helping people work on their health, their fitness, and their rehabilitation. Another example of this relationship between goals and values, let's say that you value independence, you value creativity. So you might have a goal of getting a degree maybe in business and business administration, and then opening up your own innovative company, whatever that company is, whatever subject matter that company is. The third example, guys, is actually me. And one of the things that I value, of course, is the planet, the physical, the cultural elements. I appreciate, the land and the air and the water and the biodiversity. I appreciate all the human stuff. And of course, I also value the right of future generations to enjoy all that we enjoy today. So I had a goal of majoring in the field of geography, which is kind of an environmental field, and essentially becoming an advocate for the earth. So for you all, what I'd like you to do is really take some time today, tomorrow, this semester, to sit down and reflect on these two concepts and really think about and ask yourself, what is it that I value in this world? What are my accepted principles and standard? And then think about what goal or goals you have based on that value or those value systems. Once you kind of have a good idea of what you value, it's fairly simple to then identify your goals and actually start, marching and climbing towards achieving them. So I just want to share with you some of the things that are important to me, my own, what I say, core values, how I live my life every day. So this list that you see on the screen reflects some of my own personal core values, how I live my life every day. And I'm not going to read through the whole list, but I just want to give you an example of how you can have a value and how that's then reflected in everyday life. So one of the ones you see on there is I value the process of education and learning. And how is that reflected in my life? Well, I've been in school since I was 3 years old, either as a student or in continuing education and learning on my own, or in helping other people learn. So every day of my life, I'm either learning something new, applying a new skill set, learning about new information, exposing myself to something different, and growing my neurons, right? Growing and learning and changing. So if you value something, it becomes part of your daily routine. Another one that you see on the list there is generosity, caring, helping other people, and showing affection. And that's a big category there. But as an example, I mean, that's really important to me. I have a very big heart. And for family and friends, of course, I'm always doing acts of generosity, you know, baking and cakes and breads and cookies and dropping things off, trying to help, but also in the aspect of volunteerism. And you all know for this class, usually students have to do the service learning project, and there's a reason for that, because not only does it help the student, but it helps other people in society. And that's something that I personally do myself. So I'm big into volunteering and helping our community, or helping specifically, as you know, caring for animals and so forth. Another one that you see on the list there is health and fitness. And so, of course, I value our physical and our mental health, my physical and mental health, other people's physical and mental health. So I make a point just for myself, not only to exercise up to 2 hours a day every day for usually 6 days out of the week, but also focusing on doing activities that promote my mental health, whether it's meditation or gardening or being in nature or hiking or walking or connecting with kind of the spiritual outside nature world. So I just want to show you again, it's this connection between your values and actually how you live your life every day. Now, we do have different sizes and what you can say categories or types of goals. Now, in terms of sizes, obviously we can have, itty bitty small, we can have mid-size, large, super-sized goals. And all of the goals are important, but of course, the bigger the goal, the more time and energy and investment sacrifices are required. But we do have 4 different categories of goals. But remember, all of the goals are personal, even though I have a category on there called personal, but all goals are personal, meaning that only you can decide what a goal is for you. If it's somebody else saying it, it's not your goal, it's their goal, all right? But let's talk about that first category called personal goals. And these are the ones that relate to you as an individual. It doesn't have anything to do with school or learning or your job or your career or your relationships, So it might be something personal like starting an exercise program or a weight loss program, or you're trying to break a bad habit program, whether that is, you want to stop smoking or drinking or doing drugs or biting your nails or whatever. It could also be to begin some kind of a reflective, introspective program. So all of these are related to you as an individual. The second category, I think it's pretty obvious, academic goals. And of course, these are related to you as a student at any level, whether it was elementary, middle, high school, as an undergraduate college student, maybe in graduate school, or even continuing education across your lifetime. So academic goals, attending class, participating in class and class discussions, doing your reading, doing your homework, studying efficiently, studying effectively, and ultimately, of course, majoring in something and earning that particular degree that you want. The third category we have are called occupational. You'll sometimes see this one called professional goals. And these are ones that relate to either a current or a future job or career. So it could become, an example would be, becoming whatever it is that you want to become in your field, doing something that you love or that makes a certain amount of money, a certain income. It could be, going up for a promotion, taking on new responsibilities. Again, anything related to a current or a future job or career. And the last category is called social, and these are the goals that focus on your relationships with other people. So it could be, spending more or less time with friends or family. It could be meeting a friend, meeting a partner, meeting a coworker, starting a family. But it could also be, the other, ending a relationship, particularly ending a toxic relationship. That can be a category of goal as well. So here on the screen, you see the 4 different categories of goals, right? Academic, professional, social, and personal. So these are some of the different goals that a student might set for himself or herself in each of these 4 areas. And you'll notice we're going to talk about the categories of goals here in a minute, but they're very specific. So an academic goal might be something like you want to talk to your faculty advisor about electives on your degree plans by a certain date, right? A professional one might be related to searching for job placement with an internship that would help boost up your resume for becoming that job, that career of a sociologist, and you give a date. Social, meeting another student who's majoring in your field to study and to learn and to have fun with as soon as possible. And a personal goal might be, you really have always wanted to become a vegetarian and you need to stop eating meat as soon as possible, kind of thing. So I encourage you all to make a little matrix like this every semester of a couple of goals that you have in each of the categories to help you stay on track. So we have different types and we have different sizes of goals. Do we also have different timings for goals? When should we be making our goals? And the answer to that question is basically you make goals whenever you want, whenever you need to. It depends on the size and the type, the category of your goals. Sometimes you might make them as frequently as every day, to spaced out over several years or even decades, right? But you should also periodically evaluate your goals. This kind of goes back to evaluating our strengths and weaknesses. You also need to be evaluating your goals. And you want to see where you are, in a week or a month or a year or 5 years, 10 years. You may not always be on track, but you will constantly be reminding yourself where you should be going. If you're not checking in, then you're not going to know, right? But it does happen that people find themselves making goals or reevaluating goals when there is a major life change. Think about some of the major life changes we go through. Turning 16 or 21, graduating from high school, graduating from college, getting your first job, landing that dream career, getting married, having a child, giving birth, sometimes experiencing the death of someone, a death of a loved one, or having an accident or a health problem. But I want to remind you that you don't need a life change to set a goal or to achieve one. Okay, so it's really it comes back to your values and what's important to you and what you want to get out of this life. That's the push factor for setting your goals. So in terms of time, you might want to remember something called the WIN factor, W-I-N. And W-I-N stands for what's important now. So every day, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, try to take some step towards your goal. And what you do is you just ask yourself, what's important now in this moment for me to be able to get to achieve my goal? And once you've identified whatever that step is, actually take action, take concrete steps to make it happen. Because if you're not making progress towards your goal, obviously nobody's going to be doing it for you. And if it's important to you and your values, you're going to take that step. You're going to make it happen.